For anyone who grew up in the 1980s, BraveStarr seemed like just another cartoon hero. But hidden inside one episode was something no one expected to see in a children's show. A death so shocking that nearly 40 years later, people are still talking about it. And the reason Filmation decided to put this story on television may be the darkest part of all. The episode is called The Price. What nobody knew is that while this episode was being produced, the studio behind BraveStarr was facing its own crisis, and it all starts with a boy named Jay. Jay is 16 years old. He lives in New Texas with the lightness of someone who has not yet been struck by the real weight of the world. His days run on the simple rhythm of school, open spaces, and the easy company of people he has known his whole life. He is not reckless. He is not lost. He is just a teenager who has not yet learned that some doors, once opened, cannot be closed again. One afternoon, a stranger called Dealer crosses his path, elegant, unhurried, with a small crystal in his hand that he calls spin, a substance that promises something none of Jay's 16 years had prepared him to resist. Instant happiness, right now. No waiting, no cost. Not yet. Jay's best friend, Brad, refuses immediately and walks away. But Jay stays, and Dealer asks just one question. Are you afraid? Jay uses the spin, and he likes it. It sounds absurd, but that is exactly the point. The cartoon shows joy, not horror, because that is what happens first. It always does. And when the euphoria fades, what remains is not regret. What remains is the urgency to feel it again. Dealer is already waiting. The first one was free. The second costs 3 Carium nuggets. But there is an even stranger detail in this episode. He disappears from his routine. He stops eating. She senses that something has changed. That the boy she raised is drifting away from the inside out, quietly and without announcement. But she cannot name what she is seeing. Just a mother watching her child from a distance of 2 feet. That feels like a mile. When Brad finds Jay days later, what he sees is no longer the friend he knew. These are eyes that look toward a place no one else can reach. His voice is flat. His movements are slow. And on the floor, Jay's mother's purse, opened, empty. He had been stealing from his own family to buy more spin. Brad confronts Jay face to face. The kind of confrontation that teenagers almost never had on Saturday morning television. And Jay looks at his childhood friend and asks for one thing, not help, a promise. Don't tell anyone. And Brad, torn between loyalty and the fear of what is happening before his very eyes, promises. And then they made a decision that would change the history of animation forever. BraveStarr is already following the clues. Reports of spin users come in from the Stone Canyon region. The sheriff uses his hawk eyes to scan the territory. He finds the clandestine factory. He rides out with 3030 to shut it down. The operation is a success. BraveStarr returns, convinced he arrived in time. He didn't. Brad, with his conscience weighing more than any promise, goes to BraveStarr. The shaman of New Texas had already given him the answer he needed to hear. A promise matters, but a life matters more. What would you rather lose forever, the promise or your friend? Brad tells everything. BraveStarr takes Brad to the hideout. They called their club. The camera moves slowly through the corridors. Quiet. No music, no movement inside the frame. And what BraveStarr finds inside is the moment that broke every rule of American animation all at once. Jay was gone. And now you need to understand why. Filmation Associates was founded by Lou Scheimer in 1962. For 25 years, it was Filmation that brought Superman to American television, that created He-Man and She-Ra, that placed a moral lesson at the end of virtually every episode it ever produced. While other studios were routing their animation work overseas to cut costs, Scheimer held to one conviction that made Filmation more expensive than every competitor: keeping all production in the United States. No outsourcing to Asian studios. American animation, drawn by American hands on American soil. While Hanna-Barbera was cutting budgets with overseas pipelines, and DIC was building production infrastructure in Korea, Filmation was paying the full cost of doing things the way its founder believed they should be done. That conviction had a price. And by 1987, the market was no longer willing to pay it. The syndication boom that had funded an entire generation of toy-driven cartoons was burning out. There were too many shows competing for a shrinking number of television slots. Toy companies that had once financed animation as a marketing tool were pulling back as the bubble deflated. The parent company, Group W, looked at the balance sheets and saw what Scheimer refused to admit. Filmation's Christmas film released that same year, Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night, failed to find its audience at the box office. The direction of travel was clear. The end was coming. And that is the detail nobody tells you. BraveStarr was the last animated series that Filmation completed. And inside that last series, while the studio knew it perhaps did not have much time left, they put the price on the air. In the final minutes of the episode, BraveStarr looks at the camera, not at Brad, at you, and he begins to speak in a voice that is no longer that of a fictional character. His exact words, broadcast on American television in 1987, were these: "Substances like these take thousands of lives every year. Each year, more young people like you get drawn in, and each year, many of those young people end up where Jay ended up. Don't play with them." A studio that knew it was at the end, using the last character it would ever create, to send a message directly to the children who had grown up watching its cartoons, not as entertainment, as a warning, not wrapped in metaphor or alien planets or robot battles. Direct, honest, looking straight into the lens. The episode ends with a dedication. To the memory of Raymond Hamada, no explanation, no footnote, just a name, and the feeling that someone, somewhere in that production building, was writing about a real loss. On February 3, 1989, Group W shut down Filmation without prior notice. Not in December, not in January. On February 3rd, one day before the American law came into effect that required companies to give 60 days notice before mass layoffs. Hundreds of animators arrived at work on a Friday morning and found the doors closed. No severance meeting, no ceremony for 25 years of American animation, no farewell. The man who refused to outsource, who paid to keep animators working on home soil, who placed moral weight inside every episode his studio ever produced, seems to have used the final breath of Filmation to deliver the most honest message American children's television ever broadcast. On the surface, just another cartoon about a sheriff with animal powers. On the inside, the testament of a studio that never blinked. If this video made you see a cartoon you thought you already knew from a completely different angle, share it with someone who grew up watching BraveStarr. And if you want to know the dark story behind another classic that 1980s TV kept hidden from you, subscribe to the channel. Because the next video is about a character who seemed harmless, but had a deeply disturbing past. See you then.